Good afternoon, students. This is SP Smart School Learning Program. The subject is chemistry. We are going to do the worksheet 1. In this worksheet, we have to write the symbols of the following compound and we have to write the formula as well. First, what we have is calcium carbonate. So, for the calcium, we have Ca2 positive, and for the carbonate, we have CO3 2 negative. Combining these two, what we get is calcium carbonate, that is CaCO3. Second, we have is potassium iodide. So for the potassium, we have K positive, and for the iodide, we have I negative. Combining these two, what we get is Ki, that is potassium iodide. Second, we have is sodium carbonate. So for the sodium, we have Na positive, and for the carbonate, we have CO3 2 negative. Combining these two, what we get is Na2CO3. Next we have is ferric chloride. For the ferric, we have Fe3 positive, and for the chloride, we have Cl negative. Combining these two, what we get is FeCl3, that is ferric chloride. Next we have is sodium bicarbonate. For the sodium, we have Na positive, and for the bicarbonate ion, we have HCO3 negative. Combining these two, what we get is NaHCO3. Next we have is barium chloride. So for the barium, we have Ba2 positive, and for the chloride ion, we have Cl negative. Combining these two, what we get is BaCl2. Next we have is copper sulfate. For copper, we have Cu2 positive, and for the sulfate, we have SO4 2 negative. Combining these two, what we get is CuSO4. Next we have is ferrous sulfate. For the ferrous, we have Fe2 positive, and for the sulfate, we have SO4 2 negative. Combining these two, what we get is FeSO4, which is ferrous sulfate. Next we have is lead oxide. For the lead, we have Pb2 positive, and for the oxide, we have O2 negative. Combining these two, what we get is PbO, which is lead oxide. Next we have is ferric bromide. For the ferric, we have Fe3 positive, and for the bromide, we have Br negative. So we get FeBr3, which is ferric bromide. Next we have is calcium nitrate. For the calcium, we have Ca2 positive, and for the nitrate, we have NO3 negative. Combining these two, what we get is CaNO3 twice, which is called as calcium nitrate. Next compound is silver nitrate. So for the symbol, we have Hg positive, and for the nitrate, we have NO3 negative. Combining these two, what we get is AgNO3, which is silver nitrate. Next is sodium nitride. Okay, so for the sodium, we have Na positive, and for the nitride, that is N3 negative. Combining these two, what we get is Na3N, which is called as sodium nitride. Next we have is ammonium hydroxide. So for the ammonium we have NH4 positive ion, and for the hydroxide we have OH negative ion. Okay, combining these two, what we get is NH4OH, which is called as ammonium hydroxide. Next we have is cuprous oxide. So for the cuprous we have Cu positive, and for the oxide we have O2 negative. Combining these two, what we get is Cu2O, which is called as cuprous oxide. Next is hydrogen sulfate. So for the hydrogen we have H positive ion, and for the sulfate we have SO4 2 negative ion. Combining these two, what we get is H2SO4, which is called as hydrogen sulfate. Next we have is aluminium chloride. So for the aluminium we have Al3 positive, and for the chloride we have Cl negative. Combining these two, what we get is AlCl3, which is called as aluminium chloride. Next we have is calcium hydroxide. So for the calcium we have Ca2 positive ion, and for the hydroxide we have OH negative ion. Combining these two, what we get is CaOH twice, which is called as calcium hydroxide. Next we have is calcium oxide. So again for the calcium we have Ca2 positive, and for the oxide we have O2 negative. Combining these two, what we get is CaO, which is called as calcium oxide. Next we have is zinc nitrate. So for the zinc we have Zn2 positive, and for the nitrate we have NO3 negative. Combining these two, what we get is ZnNO3 twice, which is called as zinc nitrate. So we have done the 20 compound formula. Okay, these are asked in board exam for the balanced equation. Let us take an example. The example is when zinc reacts with H2SO4, what we get is zinc sulfate plus hydrogen is released. In board exam, the examiner can ask the question by writing the names only. So, you have to remember the names as well as the chemical formula for balancing the equation. So, it is important to learn the names as well as the chemical formula for the compounds.